And welcome back. As promised, we're here to talk about the image quality of the Fujifilm GFX100RF. As you can tell, I don't have the camera in my hands anymore. I had to return it after those 2 days in Venice, but I plan on getting it back because I want to give it another try on a more relaxed timeline and on one of my travels. So definitely subscribe for that. It's going to happen, and I hope it's going to happen soon. And if you missed my previous video, go have a look at it over here. Just one thing, for whatever reason, YouTube messed up my video and I cannot disable the translated language. Select the Italian version and it's gonna get you the English version, while if you select the English version, it's going to get you the AI dubbed one. It's messed up. I don't want to take it down. So if you go look at it again, it's here. Just make sure you select the Italian language from the languages. This video is presented by Audio. You know when you're looking for that music or that sound effect that fits perfectly but it seems almost impossible to find? Well, I've been using audio.com for almost a year now, and it's truly an incredible platform. They have a huge library of high-quality music and sound effects created by very talented independent artists. But the game-changing thing is that Audio is increasingly integrating artificial intelligence to make this research even easier and faster. It's a simple and fast way to find the right soundtrack and the ideal sound effect for all your ideas, without stress and with clear licensing. So if you're a creator like me, I really recommend checking out audio.com. I'm sure you'll find something special for your next project. And with the link below and the discount code SAVE70, you also get a 70% discount. With this video, I want to deep dive on both the image quality related to the lens, which is the unknown most of all, because we all know the sensor. The GFX100S Mark II has the same sensor, so we kind of know everything about that sensor. But also, we're going to talk about the sensor image quality, and we will also talk about a couple of things that I already mentioned in my previous video, but I want to talk about a little bit more when it comes to the usability of the camera, and especially the zooming and the aspect ratio dial, because I think that was a nice idea, and it was definitely implemented the right way, and I want to show you why. So let's go have a look at the screen behind me, and we're gonna be back here to wrap this video up. So I wanted to start this conversation about the image quality with the lens wide open, because that's where you usually find the flaws of this image. Now, one thing you're gonna see, this is f4, so wide open at 1/40th of a second. The lens is pretty sharp, even at the corners. You don't have to really worry about it. It's very, very sharp. The one flaw that I found, however, is this. You see a pretty good amount of chromatic aberration. Now, a situation like this, bright sky and a tree in the front without leaves, this is the worst case scenario that you can find. And although I see over here that the profile is already present in Capture One, I believe they can make it a little bit better. I don't know, they may be updating it, but this is, and I'm spoilering already something. This is the only flaw that I could find with the lens. This purple fringing effect is quite visible. It's not pleasing, but also it's only in a situation like this that I found it. Not in any other scenario, I couldn't find anything. So this is the worst case scenario, but I wanted you to know. Going back to talking about the sharpness and the performance of the lens wide open, you can see there's vignetting over here. Let me just show you how easily it gets removed. Something like that. It should be already okay. And again, the lens is very, very sharp, even towards the corners. You don't have to worry about it. Here, I believe I'm a little bit off. There's a bit the how you see I lose a little bit of sharpness over here. I believe this is the house, the angle, and it may be slightly out of focus, because if you look at the next image over here, even at the corners, let me bring the exposure up just to show you a little bit better what I'm talking about. It's f4 and the lens is perfectly sharp even in the corner. So I believe in that case, it was just the house that was at a weird angle and it was getting a little bit out of focus. So when it comes to the lens, aside from that chromatic aberration, you don't have much to complain. Still speaking of the lens and of the 3D look, the medium format look. Here's a colleague that helped me shooting these shots. You can see that even at f4, you can definitely blur the background and have a three-dimensional look. Of course, you need to have a subject close to you, and I mean, you don't even have to have the background that far away. This is a couple of meters away, so nothing to worry about. But even here, you see the background is still visible. I mean, you're not completely blowing the background away, but it's pleasingly rendered. The out of focus area are not like the creamiest of the lenses that you will find, but still you get, it's still a 28 millimeters equivalent. It's a 35 millimeters, so you only get that much bokeh. And being f4, it definitely doesn't help from that point of view, but still you can get some three-dimensional look out of these images. The other thing related to image quality that I wanted to show you, and it's related to the lens, is this. This shot is at f11. It's completely the exposure is completely out of whack. I made a mistake, but the lens you see is sharp at f11, and the lens is still sharp at f16, very sharp at f16. The one thing that you need to remember is that at f22 you definitely lose some sharpness. Yes, you get better sun stars, but those are not like spectacular anyways, and you lose a lot of resolution. So for me, this is a lens that should be used only up to f16. You can use it f22. You just need to remember that you're going to lose a lot of sharpness there. Speaking of image quality, since we saw this image already, let me show you. This is completely like blown out, more than 2 stops higher than it should have been. You can bring it back and you can recover the vast majority of it, but still, you see here that you cannot recover everything. So if you make a mistake towards blowing the highlights, you don't have a lot of wiggle room to recover those. We'll see in another moment that unless if they're not completely blown away, you can recover a lot out of them. But if you go like this, there's no way you're going to bring them back. But what you can do over here, this is pretty much the same image that you can see, you still have a very strong light sources. In this case, you can definitely get a much better result because they were not blown out already, so you can get a much better result over there. And on the other hand, if you underexpose, in this case I was clearly exposing for these images over here, right? But let's just say you want to recover 4 stops from the shadows. We're at 1000 ISO and we pushed the exposure by 4 stops. You still have plenty of sharpness in the image. The noise is pretty good, is well under control. With a good denoising software, you get a pretty nice image. And since these areas were not blown away already, you can recover a lot out of those and get a pretty HDR-ish look type of image. Not what I'm looking for. I shot like this because I wanted something like this. Didn't turn out to be a great shot, but it doesn't really matter. But you have that flexibility. Speaking of the sensor, if we're talking about high ISO, this is 12,800 ISO, and there's not much to say about it. I haven't cleaned any noise up, and this is the image as I shot it, and you can definitely tell that there's plenty of sharpness over here. The noise is very well controlled. Yeah, here you get some noise, but it's not bad. and the colors are still good. So 12,800 ISO are totally usable in any situation. In this specific case, you see 35 millimeters f4 1/30th of a second. I needed to go to 12,800 because I needed to stay at 1/30th. And let's just say you want to be completely crazy and shot at the maximum ISO you can get. This is at 100,000 ISO. Not saying it's good, but in a pinch for small prints or for Instagram, these are usable. You just need to clean it up. Don't get, or I mean, you need to wait for the processor to do its job, and after that, it is usable. Usable again, not as a fine art print for sure, but it's usable for small prints, for those shots that you better get them noisy, that don't get them at all. So I'm not advocating for using 100,000 ISO, but if you need to, you can. This is an image that I like it like this. I mean, it needs a little bit of work here and there, but if you want to recover the highlights and recover the shadows, you can get a complete different look out of this image with ease. I don't like it like that, but you recovered the sky over here. You brought the shadows up, and this image is still usable, and it was already at 3,200 ISO. So we're talking about a very high flexibility with this sensor. Now I wanted to touch on a couple of performance things. We already discussed in my previous video about the limitation of having an f4 without stabilization, and the concern is how low can I go with my shutter speed in order to get a good image. This image is shot as 1/13th of a second, and while it's not perfect, it's definitely usable. However, you don't like to get one decent. I had 4 that didn't work, so you need to shoot a little bit more to get one that actually works, but you can. And this one is shot at 8,000 ISO, 1/20th of a second, and the image is perfectly usable. Of course, the subject is blurred because at 1/20th of a second, even if the gondola is not the fastest of the vehicles, it's still faster than 1/20th of a second. But if you look at the wall, it's sharp, it's usable. 8,000 ISO are perfectly usable. So you can go below 1/30th of a second. Of course, again, it's not going to be one shot, one kill all the time. You need to shoot a little bit more. The good thing is the leaf shutter and the very sensible shutter button help you limit the vibrations, and so help you get below your usual safety threshold that you would have on a mirrorless camera, or even worse, on a DSLR camera. I also wanted to touch on the autofocus, because even in these conditions, you can say that the autofocus performed pretty good. This was not pre-focused. It was focused on the go. The image is nothing crazy, but I just wanted to show you that it worked pretty well, and we're talking 6,400 ISO, so very low light. In this case, the autofocus was not perfect, but the image is still usable, and if you bring the exposure a little bit up, you get a much more readable image. But also, speaking of autofocus, I wanted to show you this burst. This is a 22 shots burst, and the autofocus performed pretty good. Now, I wasn't running towards the camera, I was walking on my pace, which is what you would expect from a medium format camera, but you see that the first one was good. Then you have 3 images that are not perfect, but they're pretty in focus. And then you have in focus, all the images in focus, all the way you're looking at 100% here, okay? You see that all the images are in focus, aside from my face, which is definitely not the best in this specific case. In this image, you have the focus was a little bit behind my eyes, but the photo is totally okay, totally usable. And the only completely out of focus is the last one that you see over here. But overall, 5-6 shots over 22, it's out of focus, of course. It's a very good performance, and it's as good as you can expect from a medium format camera. Considering also that it's been miniaturized, it's all done to make it as small as possible, and so the performance is really, really, really good. One of the last things that I wanted to touch on with this camera is the flexibility that you get when you start using the various aspect ratio, when you start using the aspect ratio dial. Because the image is already framed the way it makes more sense. And if you want, you can always use the rest. In this case, it doesn't have much more sense. And what I realized, and I already touched on this in my previous video, is that once you start using that dial, you realize how helpful it is trying to get your composition right. In this case, I think we're working with a 16:6 or 65:2024. I don't remember. There's a lot of stuff up and down that doesn't really help at all. Not that this shot is great by any means, but it's still usable. In this case, the 16:9 probably works better than this, and by doing that in the field with the simplicity of having a dial that does it for you, it's very, very, very important, because you can definitely fix the framing of your picture in a much better way, knowing exactly what you're going to see. Knowing also that if you, for whatever reason, you need more, you still have your raw file over here. Of course, in JPEG, it's not going to happen. JPEG is going to look like the way you shot this. Even here, having a lot more, like I wasn't using a tripod. I was using the bridge here. So having this bottom part wouldn't help at all, and having all this portion of the roof doesn't help at all either. Of the sky doesn't help at all either, because it's not important. Like this, you can focus on what's important, which is the canal. Same thing over here. And so it's a very flexible way of shooting. And this also applies to the shooting. Let me see. I couldn't find it. Cannot find it. Where is it? To shooting when you zoom in. Because in this case, you can see the overall picture is a lot longer. Now, in this case, I messed up the framing. This frame should have been like this. And the good thing about the flexibility of this camera is that you can definitely do it. But what it does for you is that as you framing, you definitely get a help seeing exactly what is going to end up in the shots, rather than relying on cropping afterwards. So while it's not a reason to purchase the camera, it's definitely a good addition, and it's something that, in my opinion, helps experiment, and it helps picturing what you're gonna get as you're shooting, which is important because it helps you get it right in the first place. And so, as you can tell, the image quality out of this lens and camera is pretty good. Of course, the lens is not gonna blow your mind. It's a 28mm equivalent f4, so it's not gonna be a bokeh master. It's not gonna get you the best three-dimensional look that you can possibly ask. And if you're a bokeh lover, this lens is probably not for you. But in general, aside from that chromatic aberration that I found, I think this lens performs spectacularly well. It's sharp corner to corner, even wide open. It gets you the two-dimensional look as long as you get close to your subject. And it's very well controlled in every possible aspect. I couldn't shoot against the sun because the sun did not show up. So I'm not 100% sure how it's going to do when it comes to flare and ghosting with the sun. But with smaller sources of light, it didn't break a sweat. So I would expect it's going to do pretty well also against the sun. But again, I will ask for the camera again because I want to test it even more, so we can talk about that once I get it back. But in general, the image quality is really, really good. And the flexibility that you get with the cropping ability and with the various aspect ratio that you have is gonna get you a pretty flexible camera in your hand that helps you find the right composition right on camera rather than relying on cropping afterwards. Whether this is a way you want to shoot or not, you can only you know. So I cannot tell you whether this is the camera for you or not. But in my opinion, that type of layout helps a lot in sparking your creativity. Also, from a performance standpoint, you could see that in a 22 shots burst, the camera did pretty well in tracking me. Of course, I was not running, I wasn't doing anything extreme, but the camera was tracking me pretty well. And having only 5 or 6 shots that were not perfectly in focus out of 22 is pretty good, especially if you consider that this is a medium format camera. And so even from that type of standpoint, you can definitely get very good result. And last but not least, yes, the camera is not stabilized. Yes, the lens is f4, but you can definitely shoot even below the 1/30th of a second shutter speed. Of course, you need to attempt more than one to get the one that is sharp. But as you could see, I could shoot at 1/20th and even at 1/13th of a second with a decent result. So you can definitely push yourself beyond the normal 1/30th of a second type of safety speed. And so in general, you get way more flexibility that you would expect by only reading the spec sheet, okay? So whenever a brand new camera is launched, especially if the camera is pretty peculiar, don't just focus on the spec sheet. Just the best thing to do is to go out and try it, because you may find that those limitations that you thought were pretty big may turn out being, yes, limitation, but not dramatically big. Again, if it was for me, I would have loved to have an f2 lens, but of course, the camera would have been much bigger, way bigger and way heavier, and it would have defeated the purpose of this specific camera, which is being the smallest and lightest medium format camera that you can get. I hope you liked this video. I hope you subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up. This helps the algorithm a lot. And again, if you want to watch my video, my first impression video on the field, make sure you turn the Italian language on, because even if I changed it, YouTube won't let me change anything. And so the English version is actually the AI translated one from my own English, which makes no sense. But that's, unfortunately, that's what it is. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and ciao.